Romans chapter 3. I was reading through that chapter the other day, and it it's actually one of the most relieving and encouraging chapters that I've read. Um, and for those of you that have read chapter Romans chapter 3, some of you may understand what I mean. Some of you may think I'm crazy for saying that, and some of you may wonder what in the world is he talking about right now. So Romans chapter 3, and I'm talking specifically from verses 9 to 18, right? And I have it pulled up right here because it came across my mind, and I felt the need to talk about it. I'll just go ahead and read it from verses 9 to verse 18. And it says, "What then, are we Jews any better off? No, not at all. For we have already charged that all, both Jews and Greeks, are under sin, as it is written, none is righteous, no, not one. No one understands, excuse me. No one seeks for God. All have turned aside. Together they have become worthless. No one does good, not even one. Their throat is an open grave. They use their tongues to deceive. The venom of asps is under their lips. Their mouth is full of curses and bitterness. Their feet are swift to shed blood. In their paths are ruin and misery, and the way of peace they have not known. There is no fear of God before their eyes. Now we know that whatever the law says, it speaks to. Oh, actually, that's verse 19. I just wanted to read verse 18. Actually, verse 19 actually hits it too. Let me go and read that. Now we know that whatever the law says, it speaks to those who are under the law, so that every mouth may be stopped and the whole world may be held accountable to God. For by the works of the law, no human being will be justified in his sight, since through the law comes knowledge of sin. And some of y'all may be thinking, how's that encouraging? You know, it's saying there's none righteous, no, not one. The law doesn't justify, and all of these things. And the reason I think it's encouraging is because it further it further emphasizes to us the love of God. If there's none righteous, yet Jesus came and died for our sins, that's a crazy type of love, right? That's a relentless love. That's a pursuing, breaking walls, running through traffic type of love. Um, and it baffles me how Jesus could love someone like me, a people like us, but that's the encouraging thing about it, right? And it can seem gloomy, but I think sometimes you have to know how broken and how bad off you truly are and were to really understand at a simple level, understand at a surface level of how relentless the love of God was towards his creation. And um like First John chapter 4 verse 10, it tells us, herein is love, not that we love God, but that God loved us and sent his son to be the propitiation for our sins. See, we didn't love God first. He loved us, and it was his love that drew us to him. And there's certain types of love, that the world tries to portray to us. Um, and I'm not going to go through different examples and stuff because if you're living in the world, you know what I'm talking about. You have to be a certain way to be accepted or things like that. But with God, right? God loved us before we even knew to love him, right? And that's a different type of love right there. That's a different level of love. And I think Romans chapter 3 can be paired pretty nice with Proverbs chapter 3, like Romans chapter 3, verse 18. It told, not verse 18, verses 15 through 17. It says, their feet are swift to shed blood, in their paths are ruin and misery, and the way of peace they have not known. Right? So you have these people who are running on a wicked path, and there's no peace in that. But in Proverbs chapter 3, I believe Proverbs chapter 3, verse 17, it tells us her ways, and when it says her, it's referring to wisdom. It's saying her ways are ways of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. All her paths are peace. And that's the contrast, right? When you're on a wicked path, there's no peace. But when you're walking in wisdom, when you're walking in a righteous way and on that straight and narrow road, there's peace in that. You know, the wicked way, there's so many ways to be wicked, but there's only one way to righteousness, and that's through Jesus. And I think that brings us peace, knowing that there's only one way. There's not going to be anything that catches us off guard. There's not going to be any extra information that comes about that says, oh, you actually have to do this as well. It's just believing in Jesus and following his commands, right? Just serving him. And there will be a peace that is brought to us. And the peace that Jesus brings us isn't a removal of conflict or removal of problems. We're still going to face everyday problems. We're still going to have bills to pay. We're still going to have to pay taxes. We're still going to face certain levels of, hate and things like that in life. And we're not going to be perfect. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to make bad choices. We're going to be disobedient as well. But the peace that Jesus brings us is a peace that surpasses all understanding. And what that means is that when you're truly in fidelity and have intimacy with Jesus, there's going to be some type of peace that's brought upon you even in bad situations. And it's not even going to make sense sometimes. But when you trust in Jesus and when you're walking in wisdom and when you're walking on that path of peace, that's where, that true renewal of mind is going to come from, where you start thinking differently, and it's going to help you to live differently because of the peace that Jesus brings us. And that's something that a loving God does. He brings his people peace. And so let us be a people that walk in true peace. I think that's where we'll start to see a change in attitudes, a change in the way that we walk. And I think that it'll be something that is attractive and exudes, and it'll be like a perfume where people will see peace in any circumstance, and they'll say that I want a piece of that. So let us be people that walk in peace. That's my encouragement for this one.